You bring the Brattleboro Selectboard meeting for Thursday, November 20th, 2025 to order. This is a special meeting, and John, was the meeting officially warned?
Yes, it was properly warned.
Great, thank you. As for chair remarks, I just have one thing to say, that again, coming over here in the dark, I noticed many people walking their dogs that I could barely see. Please, when you're out walking, bring a flashlight, and that's all. John, do you have any comments?
I have just one tonight. I just wanted to let everyone know that we've had some staffing constraints, and we are going to be closing the finance department from 12 to 1 during the day for the foreseeable future so that people can get a break and have a lunch. So,
Great.
yep.
Do either of you have comments?
Just to say that I think, Jennifer, you brought and made the cookies?
Yes,
Is that
I
right? Is
did.
that for anyone?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Please help
well,
yourself.
on the table are cookies from Jennifer.
And little
And oranges.
And apple cider.
Yeah. Amanda?
I guess I'll just say welcome. I'm glad to see everyone here that's here, and thank you for the cookies.
Welcome.
All right. Is there anyone who would like to discuss something that is not on tonight's agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Could I see an agenda, please?
They're over there.
Right here? I do have a question.
Come to the microphone, please, and state your name and where you live.
I'm Audrey Garfield. I live in Brattleboro. And I'm aware of the schedule of departments that will be presenting for the budget process. And I apologize if this question's been asked already, and I'm not aware of it. But I'm wondering if the Finance Committee still meets and when we'll be hearing from the Finance Committee regarding the budget.
Well, the Finance Committee is an RTM committee, and a member is here, and perhaps he knows when your next meeting is. David?
Can you repeat that, please? The Finance Committee is
The
what?
Finance Committee is a representative town meeting committee.
Okay.
They meet on their own, and they have been invited to come to speak to the select board, but that's been on again and off again, and maybe David or John know when that is.
Okay, you don't need to speak slowly. I understand.
The Finance Committee meets regularly. Maybe, David, you want to give a schedule on that?
Yes, our next meeting, David Lovelock, District 9 Finance Committee. The next meeting is on Monday at 6 p.m. in the Hannah Cosman Room.
Right here.
That's
There.
December 1st,
November 24th.
November 24th. Okay.
And if you go to the RTM Committee's section of the town webpage, you'll see our minutes, and also on Ms. Strickler's distribution list, she announces when all committees are meeting. Thank you.
Yes. So if anybody wants to be on the distribution list for when the Finance Committee meets, please let Jessica Stickler know in the town manager's office, and her email is jstickler@brattleboro.gov.
Thank you, John. And has the meeting of the Finance Committee to the Select Board been
No.
scheduled?
No.
Okay. Anyone else for public participation? Great. Well then, John, if it's all right with you, I will just introduce Ryan and Jennifer.
Yes, please.
All right, we have Jennifer Burnell, our town assessor, and Ryan Silvestri to speak to us tonight. Please begin.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We are going to give you a little briefing on the reappraisal and the process. A little background. In March of '23, the representative town meeting voted to commission a townwide reappraisal of all taxable property within the town to be completed in 2027. The town was last reappraised in 2010. A standard of the industry is to reappraise every 6 years, and that has now also become a state requirement. So this is the beginning for us to start that process. The town contracted with New England Municipal Consultants, and Ryan Silvestri is here as a co-owner of NEMC. I'm not supposed to say it that way. To give you a little briefing and answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Yep, so my name's Ryan. I'm co-owner of New England Municipal Consultants, and I'm going to be your project manager for the reappraisal for the 2027 grand list. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity to meet with taxpayers of Brattleboro and definitely field questions, but just give you kind of a quick overview as to the process and some of the get rid of some of the rumor mill, potentially things that are out there about reappraisal and effects that it has. So it's been quite some time since your prior reappraisal. We're going to be building an entirely new database from scratch. So we're going to be updating your database it's very formidable. It has a lot of data points so that we're able to create a lot more equity. The more data we're able to create, the more equity we can create from building to building, parcel to parcel. Townwide reappraisal, percent of change. A lot of people, are worried about percent of change and say, well, if my assessment goes up X percent, my tax bill is going to go up that same percent. And that's not true. The tax rate's going to change as a result of the grand list changing. So if the budget stays the same and the grand list doubles, the municipal tax rate would be cut in half. So depending upon what your percent of change is for your parcel compared to the overall average for the whole town is really the first indication, the best indicator to what effect we will have to your tax bill. The big variable in that is hard to control is the education portion, obviously of your tax bill and what that base education rate will be for 2027. And that's something that we don't have tons of control over. So there are a lot of variables that go into that your new tax bill as a result of the reappraisal, but it's not a one-for-one, whatever percentage my assessment increases, that's the percentage my tax bill is going to increase. We will be asking to do interior inspections as part of the reappraisal. It's really important for us that again helps us build equity, being able to say what condition the interior is versus the exterior of a home, because our task is, per state statute, 100% of fair market value. So your assessment is to reflect 100% of fair market value as of April 1st, 2027, using the prior 3 years of sales in Brattleboro only. So, and that is also statute. So we'll use sales from April 1st of 2024 to April 1st of 2027 and to set all values throughout the whole town for residential and commercial properties. For commercial properties, we've actually already had a good luncheon with some of the commercial owners. We're going to be sending out income and expense mailers, and we're going to be valuing commercial property based on how they would be sold, and that's their ability to generate revenue, to generate income. So depending on that query and what we get back, what we can infer from sales that have occurred over the 3 years of commercial property, that's how we'll be setting commercial values as more of a hybrid approach of sales and income and expense. Residential properties have a basis and cost approach to value, but again, we're also going to back those into sales, over the 3 years of looking at comparable sales for property within the area. We have really good data collectors. We're very friendly. We're willing to educate as best as we can. We want everyone to be on the same page throughout this process. We have no way are going to hide from anybody. In fact, we're going to probably be pretty obnoxious, flashing lights, yellow vests, working in teams, throughout the town. We'll be working in teams of 3 to 4 people down a street in cold calling. We will send out impact letters to taxpayers ahead of areas of town that we're going to be working in. so that every taxpayer will get a notice. They'll have an opportunity to call and set up an appointment, so we don't just cold call the property. And they also have the option at that point to say they don't wish us to come on the property at all, which is totally fine, but we're still tasked to update your assessment either way. So we're gonna make general assumptions from what we can see from the road, from Google Earth, whatever other resources we can use. And then we'll likely have to go through the grievance process to correct any errors on the record or anything like that, which we're gonna have a bit more of an extensive grievance process where through the company, we're gonna offer informational hearings ahead of your formal grievance process. So there'll now be 4 levels of appeal as opposed to 3. And at that informational stage, through the company, we still have control of the values. We can make value changes at that point. But we're also going to answer any questions you have about your new record card. The record cards are gonna look different from anything that you're used to seeing. So be able to go over the data with you, go over the value, share some sales, field feedback from the taxpayer. You know, at that point, if we didn't get inside, we might have just a verbal survey and say, hey, you know, we see the house was built in 1950. Are the bathrooms original, the kitchen original? You know, or you know, try to decipher as best we can any of the issues that there may be on the data card. And then that's when we will turn over our entire project to the town assessor and the listers, and they'll go through their formal grievance process with everybody in town. So you get that kind of pre-grievance informational hearing where we really encourage folks to participate. Even if you agree with your value and just have general questions, again, we really aim to get everybody on the same page, you know, with this process and really, you know, we want to make everybody understand that reappraisal is a good thing. Creating equity of a grand list is a good thing. That's the only way that as a society we can say you're paying your fair share of taxes. If assessments within a community are awry and there's no equity, there's lack of consistency, there's a lot of you know, renovations or lack thereof hasn't been captured. One, it's really difficult for your town to set a municipal tax rate because that total grand list value is in question. They don't really know how much the value of Brattleboro is today versus 17 years ago when it was last appraised. So to correct the grand list, to have accurate tax rates so that you can have, you know, intelligent budget commissions based on what your grand list is, as you can see the budget divided by the grand list is your tax rate. So the big variable of that is the grand list, is which we aim to correct and correct equitably, you know, parcel by parcel throughout town. I do want to just kind of open the floor to the board. Anyone here for any specific questions anyone may have for me at this time, if that's all right, or?
Does anyone from the public have questions for Ryan at this time?
The board has some questions.
Please.
But if the public prefers to
ahead,
go
Amanda.
first, that's fine too. Okay, I have a number of questions.
Great,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So when you say appraised compared to what? So appraised compared to similar sized towns in New England? Appraised compared to, that's what I'm kind of,
Yeah, sure. So Brattleboro. So every sale that we use to set market value will be from Brattleboro over that 3-year period.
Got it.
So we're not going to be taking sales from any adjoining communities at all. We're going to have more than enough sales within Brattleboro to be able to set fair assessments.
okay. Where do farms fit in the appraisal process? Because they're not residential, are they considered commercial?
So they are residential, so highest and best use of a farm would be as a residential sale. With farm properties, farm-specific buildings, we build in a lot of functional obsolescence to them. So you could have a 25,000 square foot dairy barn, and we're not going to be valuing it at much at all, right? It's going to be valued at maybe $3 a square foot, right? Because that dairy barns, they're built for a specific function, and that function is, you don't see a lot of farms, you know, changing hands to continue being a working farm. it's a sad reality in Vermont, but we have to reflect that in the market as well. We can't, say because your building is 25,000 square feet, it's worth a couple $100,000. That's not how the market would react. If you're purchasing that property, that's not the weight of value you'd be placing on it.
How does the current use appraisal program factor into
Sure.
the appraisal?
So it actually does nothing to how we value property. Current use comes downstream or after the value. So we value all land the same, regardless of being enrolled in current use or not. And then current use then will subsidize the enrolled land. So we may have excess acreage valued at 25 to 3,500 per acre on a depreciated curve. So that's how we bring in economies of scale. So if you own 100 acres, not each acre is not going to be valued at 3,500. The first 10 may be, and then each acre after that will be worth less. Acre 11 would be worth 2,940. Acre 12 would be worth 2,880, and so on and so forth until we get to typically around $400 an acre. But that's if you have hundreds of acres. So the idea there is if you were to buy in bulk, you pay less per unit. What current use does is it takes the total value of your enrolled land and it taxes it at a state set value. So ag productive last year, I think, was about 400 and something dollars per acre taxable value, whereas we may be valuing that land as assessment at an average of $1,800 per acre. So that's how that's where current use comes in. So, and it's real important, actually, the state's really been trying to audit that, because what some towns have done is they'll backload your excess acreage. So they'll say your excess 200 acres is worth $1 million, knowing that it's enrolled in current use. And the taxable value of that's going to be reduced greatly. And that's not correct. You don't want to backload value like that. So we value all land the same. Current use comes afterwards.
Are there any stipulations for conserved land?
So excess acreage, we don't value excess acreage as if it could be developed. We value it for your use and enjoyment. So if your use and enjoyment is inhibited by the characteristics of the land, we're going to account for that. So steep slopes, wetlands, easements, right-of-ways, electric easements, whatever restrictions there may be. So when it comes to Vermont Land Trust and conservation easements, it's hard to quantify an exact dollar amount that really creates to the property, because it would, if we were valuing the property and say, okay, you have 100 acres and we're making a gross assumption that you could put 5 building lots on that 100 acres. Now that conserved land, now that I need to obviously get rid of that value because you can't legally do that. But we're not valuing excess acreage as if it could be developed at all. Because rule number 1 in appraisal is it legal? And I'm not your ZA, I'm not Act 250, I'm not a septic engineer. We're not going to value excess acreage as if it's developable until those lines are put on the map and a subdivision's been filed.
One more question.
Sure.
Thank you. What category do nonprofits go into? Are they considered commercial or, in the town of Brattleboro, you've probably gotten to know us already. We have a lot of
Sure.
nonprofits that own quite a large amount of property, land, and buildings.
Sure. So it'll all be valued the same. So if it's a commercial building, it will be valued as any other commercial building would be. If there's any tax stabilization or agreement for taxation, that would be exercised by the town of Brattleboro, any pilot programs you may have. So, but we still are going to value everything uniformly throughout the community.
So you only gave 2 categories, residential and commercial. But what is, say, a hospital, for example?
Hospital would be exempt.
But it is assessed regardless?
Yep, we exempt we value all your exempt properties. The town can either value exempt properties one of 2 ways, either by insurance replacement value or by assessed value. Assessed value is likely going to be a bit more, but it's something where I'll use an example of a school. So say the town has a school assessed at, $45,000, and it should be $1 million. Well, the insurance companies, they're going to look at anything to try not to pay. So they're going to say, okay, the town has this assessed at such a low value. Why? Your claim is for $1 million, but your own town records say it's worth 45,000. So it's not taxed, but we still want to value it accurately so that it's viewed, however it may be viewed by any outside source, it's viewed for what it is.
Let me just
It's all of mine.
add, so that's something that the owner should value, that their property is properly assessed, because there's a lot of other factors going into it other than the taxes.
This is all public information, so yeah, anyone can look at these values and look at this data and make inferences. So we just want it to be as accurate as possible, and that's the best that we can. That's the best we can do.
Thank you. Amanda, was there more?
That's everything. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Oscar?
Not right now.
Okay. Now, members of the public, do you have questions? David?
No reason to. David Lovemark, District 9. Thank you for the presentation, very clear. You talk about an information session prior to a grievance process. I'm not expecting this to be an issue, but just out of curiosity, the grant list now is public, and so anyone can see all the values. Before the information session and the grievance, will the entire town's data be public?
Yes, thank you for that question. It will be. So we'll actually be publishing the whole database online. So you'll be able to filter through even and say, show me everything, every value on this street, show me every value of this building type, show me every value of this age, and be able to gauge your parity between current assessment to current assessment. I will be honest, so we used to publish and mail out a booklet, but those costs have become very, very restrictive. And we find that the online database, we will have paper copies available in town hall for anybody that needs them, just Excel's printouts with that data. But the online database, I get some pretty good analysis from that. I get some statisticians that really go at that, and they come in with really good arguments and observations, and we want to put that out there. So you'll get a preliminary value notice that will show your old assessment, your new assessment. It will also give you directions on how to view that online database and how to schedule an appointment with us. And really, there are three this is more when you get to formal grievance. Informational, ask us anything. But and we'll coach you on how to grieve formally. There's really three arguments you want to make. My current assessment does not equal fair market value based on these sales, these other comparable sales that I'd like to provide to you. My current assessment isn't equitable when looking at other similar properties assessments throughout Brattleboro. So here's another 1950s ranch valued at $280, and mine's the same thing, valued at $345. Yeah, I gotta reconcile that for me, Or there's mistakes. There's just flat out data mistakes on my record card. You have my house was built in 2004, where in fact it was built in 1960, and that back addition is only 2004, which would affect your depreciation.
What was the first of those three things?
My current assessment does not equal fair market value based on these comparable sales or examples of other of sale prices in the area.
Anyone else? Yes, Aaron. I'll get you in a second, Oscar.
Aaron Smith, Brattleboro. So I had a few questions. What did you say the assessment schedule is now? It's going to be done in every 6 years?
So the state, so every 6 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Next thing, building condition, that plays into your assessment. So if you're in a row of houses and you have the eyesore, That's going to affect the assessment?
Yeah, so we're gonna depreciate your property more for,
And if the land it sits on is in a flood zone land is appraised at a different value?
it's good.
Compared
So
to-
we're gonna set a neighborhood schedule throughout the whole town, and low-lying, and land that's in the floodplain is gonna be a lower neighborhood designation. And that likely, it's just because it's hard to say, being in the floodplain or floodway and exactly where you are within that is equal to X amount of dollars. But what I can say is by looking at sales in these areas, these sales are depressed comparative to the next road, the next street up. So your base land values will be lower.
Okay.
So there may not be on the card floodplain minus 5,000 or pick a number, right? But I can say through my analysis, everything in these areas is selling for less, therefore they're gonna have lower base land values.
Yeah, I'm in a kind of a unique situation because all my neighbors are out of the flood zone and I happen to be in it.
So in that case, and again, mass reappraisal really satisfies the average, or what we call our interquartile range statistically, right? So it does very well for the average and a couple ticks out of the average. When we get into outlier properties, we have to start making individual adjustments for those properties. So that may very well be a good opportunity for you to come to the informational and say, hey, I understand the land, the land all around me is okay, and I'm the one odd duck out, and we'll have to look at that to make a singular adjustment for your property compared to your neighbors.
Okay, thanks.
Oscar, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on your answer to David. So once the appraisal is done, we now permanently have the grand list in this new database format that anyone in the public can search and filter and do all this stuff on?
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
That's great.
But it's subject to grievance.
Well, I mean, everything's subject to, so the Web Pro database is actually part of the software, the CAMA software you purchased. So that can be updated annually, and that can become a link on the assessor's webpage. So that folks, if they want a hard copy of their parcel card, the best thing is to email the assessor's office and get a PDF of the full card. But going on that Web Pro database, you can filter and look at your leisure at anything in town.
That's great. Thank you.
Let's just clarify that for me. You're going to have all your data brought into a new grand list, and then individual people will be able to grieve their assessment if they're not pleased with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that grievance procedure is fulfilled, then the grand list is set.
Yep. So yeah. So we're gonna have our informational hearings, and then basically that, and then after that, that's the town filing their abstract grand list. And then after your abstract grand list, you go through your grievance process, and then then you file your post grievance, your grand list. All that information will be updated on that online database in real time. So that everybody will be looking at apples to apples and saying, okay, there was a change at the preliminary, there was a change at the abstract.
Great. Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public?
I have one more question, Chair.
All right, let's just go ahead, Amanda, and then we'll get to Mrs. Smith.
How do vacancies or for sale properties affect assessments in what did you call them, blocks, communities, neighborhoods?
In the neighborhood areas. So vacancies could create depressed land values if you have a lot of them concentrated in certain areas. And this, though you're saying in the inventory, so the more inventory, so we can't use list prices at all. We can only use what properties actually transact for comparison. So, you could have some folks will list a property for far more than what it may be worth, hoping to, hit the lotto. Some may under list because they have a time motivation. So we only want to look at properties that have actually sold to set market value. So increasing inventories, it's an indicator, it's a market indicator, but I haven't seen the market drop as a result. It takes longer to sell a house now than it did in 2021, 48 hours. In 2021, you're basically closed, sealed, and, on your way. And now you're back to your 90, 60, 90, 100 days to transact a property, which is typical.
Mrs. Smith?
Jen Smith. My question is, you're going to mail letters so we can set up appointments for you to come appraise our houses, or you're going to cold call us. So how do you get our phone number? Like, is there somewhere we need to update our phone numbers? Are they on file somewhere?
I'm sorry, I misspoke a bit there. So cold call as in we're gonna come and knock on your door. Yeah, we're not gonna, we can't, call everybody. There's just no, there's, like you said, there's no way for us to know, how to.
But so you'll be canvassing the neighborhoods, and then will there be announcements of which neighborhoods you'll be in? Is that part of your scheduling?
So we're gonna send out areas of 300 to 500 letters at a time.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna really announce like what street we're gonna be on any specific day for a number of reasons. One, just it's tough. We're out when we're in inclement weather. Sometimes you got road work on certain streets. We avoid that. The other reason is that it's very rare, but we have had a couple of occurrences of copycats. So, you throw on an orange vest.
So it's security.
Yeah, it's security and just the unpredictable nature of collecting data in the field. It's not the easiest. Especially here in downtown, you have very steep slopes and very narrow streets and a lot of one-ways. So we may be parking around the corner and hoofing it, I'm telling all my guys, you're 10, 15,000 steps a day here, so great, you get paid to work out. So it's difficult for us to really say, on the 1st to the 5th, we're going to be at house X, Y, and Z.
Thank you. Yes, Heidi.
Can I just say something real quick? I just wanted to let everyone know that the assessor's office will answer your calls. We're in the office from 8:30 to 5. If there is a question as to who's knocking on my door, give us a call. We're on the website. Also, Ryan's team have badges that were produced by the town, and you can see their mugshots online on the assessor's page. No, I'm sorry. It's on the Reappraisal project page that you just go to the project page from the town's website and filter it down until you find Reappraisal, and you will see Ryan's team that's going to be in Brattleboro.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks,
That's
Heidi.
really helpful.
Sure.
Heidi?
Ryan, could you just talk about, for people who are concerned about letting people in their houses and, what the differences of letting somebody in and not letting somebody in, could you talk about the advantages? And we had
Sure.
talked about that in the other meeting, I think, but, because I think
Yeah.
people are reticent a little bit or nervous about it. If you could talk about that,
Sure.
would be great.
Yeah, no, so it allows us, the more data we can collect, the more accurate of a value we can render. So it's mostly about depreciation and what condition is the house in today versus when it was originally built. Have things been has it been fully updated? It's more of the partial updates that really is the more important interiors for us, where as an example, a house was built in 1960 and had a general renovation in the 80s, which is now still dated today. And then since then, they've updated one bathroom. And so it's something that we're able to value each bathroom independently of one another. We're able to put a specific value on just your kitchen. So a kitchen value can range anywhere from, $6,000, $10,000 all the way up to $50,000, $60,000, depending on what it is. So having those direct data points that reflect market conditions and how a property would sell is how we can create equity. So, and it's also really important if you have structural issues. So a lot of times what we'll say at the door, if their taxpayers hesitant and say, okay, I understand, do you mind if I just ask you a couple quick questions? And one of them might be, how's your foundation? You know, if you have cracks and you have leaky foundation, do you have any, you have structural concerns? Because those may be things that just from walking around the outside of a house, we'd have no idea. We'd have no idea, but that would drastically change the value of your home potentially. But otherwise, and so we want to do interiors because that's kind of the gold standard. That's the best effort we can do to create the most accurate database. But if there's hesitancy, we're not at all going to push, and we're going to just say, do you have a couple of minutes for some questions? And if there's no time for that, then we'll say, hey, well, we're going to do our best from the outside, if that's all right. And then you have all these opportunities down the line to kind of talk to us about it. But it's just all about accuracy. On the interiors, we always say too, we don't have to go in every room. We do not want to look in your closets. We really want to see really 4 things: your kitchens, your bathrooms, and your basement. Those are if that's the least that we see of the inside of your home, then that's fine. That's totally fine.
John?
Jennifer, I was going to ask if you could put a link to the project page on the assessor's page in case people are looking for it through that way.
Very good idea, yes.
And Ryan, thanks for your presentation. This is really helpful information. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the level of certification or experience that these folks you're having go out to the neighborhoods have.
Sure. So Doug Davis, he's going to be our field manager. He's been with me for 3 years. He's done multiple projects on his own, collecting data, has seen the process from beginning to end. Ben is relatively new data collector. He has a background in construction, a background in working with the public, and is catching on really quickly. And then we're actually going to be training a new hire on December 1st, and he's going to be attached to the hip for probably 60 days. And then we'll get him out in the field collecting on his own. All of this data gets sifted multiple times. So we get our initial data collection, so photos, measurements, exterior observation. We then go through data entry, where it gets sifted by our data entry clerks, who really nitpick any of the data, flag questions, and give it back to the data collectors, where we may revisit properties. And then I do a final review, a final field review, where I'm going to drive by or into the driveway of every property in town and look at all the data again and set final values. So we do have a couple newer data collectors coming on. Where the business is growing as rapidly as we can, but I'm real confident that they're going to be able to execute their part of the job and learn a lot on the way.
That's great, thank you. Second question I had was, when you put together the preliminary grand list, and that's what people have this chance to talk with you as a contractor about their values, will the comps for each property be available to them when they do that, and how will that be available?
Sure. So all the sales will be available, but it's mass reappraisal is different from a fee appraisal. So mass reappraisal is an entire database, and we build the database to satisfy the properties that have sold. That data then translates to all the other properties in town that haven't sold.
Oh,
So we don't do like a fee appraisal for each parcel and say, here's comp 1, 2, and 3 and the adjustments. The adjustments are built into the data itself. And those adjustments are built based upon all the qualified sales over those 3 years. So when we do get into further levels of appeal, especially for, again, those outlier properties, we will do, write-ups where it's okay, comp 1, 2, and 3. These are the market conditions. These are the adjustments that we're making. But mass reappraisal is done differently as a whole than a singular fee appraiser, fee appraisal for just one property. We have to value all of Brattleboro. So by doing it that way, and so again, all of our data points have factors associated with them. So, like hardy plank siding is plus 1% to your base square foot price, right? Asphalt siding is minus 2% to your base, so and so on and so forth. So all those adjustments, by doing it that way, all those adjustments are consistent for every house in Brattleboro. Whereas if any of you have dug into a refinance, a fee appraisal going to refinance, and you're looking at these adjustments, they're pretty arbitrary. I mean, and we could make some adjustments certain way for one property and make different adjustments for similar data another way. Working in our computer assisted mass appraisal software and doing mass appraisal this way, it eliminates any of those inconsistencies.
That's helpful. The last question I had was, when you have the abstract grand list, so it's gone through this initial process, would it be possible to share with people or do a calculation to show them what their tax was in, I assume it'll be fiscal 27, that you'll have that information on the actual tax for each property? Could we also include with their information an estimated tax for that same fiscal year as if the whole new grand list was in place?
So Rob might not. Rob Giotti, he's the town manager in Dorset. He put together actually a tax estimate calculator based upon the preliminary grand list value and his estimated budget for that upcoming year. Disclaimer under it. But yes, no, that can be done. But I would only provide the preliminary grand list of that, and then you would have to come up, because those other variables I just don't have. Your future budget, and then and it really works well for your municipal tax rate.
Yeah.
But obviously the education tax rate, that's harder to create a calculator for.
That's why I was thinking go back in time, because you know what your taxes were. But what if it was the new grand list value? Let's just figure it out then and do a comp.
Yeah. So you could make a calculator as simple as, here was last year's municipal tax rate. Plug in your new assessment, and this is what it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gina?
Gina, can you hear me? No. Shit. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Well, you should speak up, because that's just for the television.
Oh, sorry. When does this start? When's the date of beginning to walk around?
December 1st
Of this year?
of this year.
Of
Yeah.
this year, okay.
Few
So
days.
you're going to start you're going to send out like a kind of a letter to say, this neighborhood of 500 people. If I wanted to make an appointment and opt out of this random drop-in, could I do that?
Of course.
I could,
Yep.
okay. And I know this is a little picayune. Will you take off how many people are coming into the house?
So if we're training, it may be 2, but we'll definitely take off our shoes.
You will.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
There you go.
No problem.
Okay.
Oscar?
Yes, so for people who do want to make appointments, do they wait to get the letter and then that will have instructions, or should be okay?
Yeah, so they'll get the letter, and it'll have instructions and number, email to call or email to set up an appointment with the assessor's office. The data collectors will come in and get those appointments and pull those cards from our stack so that we don't go preemptively. I will say that it never fails where we're working in a street and that morning, and someone calls where we leave at 9. Someone calls at 10 to make an appointment, and at 11, poor Mark is knocking on the door. It's rare, but we do the best. We do the best we can, and if we ever were to cold call, an appointment had been made, we're going to apologize and just say, oh, we'll be back on your appointment day. Sorry for the miscommunication.
Okay, great. So it's fair to say that for people in the community, nobody has to do or worry about anything until they get a letter, and then they can make the decision about an appointment or not.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
And they're contacting the assessor's office. It's the name and number that's
Okay.
on that letter.
Anyone else? Yes, Heidi?
Well, Heidi's getting up. Could I just ask, are the letters coming from the assessor's office? Or are they coming from NEMC?
They're coming from NEMC, but the return address is the assessor's office, so that way we can fuss out any undeliverable.
Heidi?
Can I just also clarify, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, that while the reassessments or reappraisals are happening starting December 1st, 2025, no one will see the ultimate change in their taxes until 2027.
Correct.
Thanks for that, Heidi. All right, any more from the public? Select Board? Are there any final comments either of you two would like to make?
No, just really.
Wait, was there a hand up? No, you're just putting your coat on. Okay. I'm sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
No, just, we're looking forward to working with the taxpayers of Brattleboro and, really trying to educate as much as we can throughout the process and be there to answer any questions. We are not, we become kind of fixtures of the community. We're going to be working here full time for about 16, 17 months. And if anyone doesn't have the answer to the question, they're all trained to get the answer. So that's something that we want, that type of interaction between the tax base and our data collectors, our employees, and that we're working for you. We work as if we were civil servants. We can't say we are because we're a private company and the state of Vermont hasn't really laid that out for us yet, but that's how we're all trained, is that we work for your community. And we have your community at our best interest, and the better data that we can collect, all of our values are data derived, the better values we can then issue back to all the taxpayers of Brattleboro, and the town can fulfill that social contract, right? We all want to make sure we're paying our fair share of taxes, and this is the process that we have to go through to get there. And we're looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Ryan. And just so you know, you and your team are very welcome here. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And we know how important your work is to our social contract. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Jennifer, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I just appreciate the audience coming and the select board for making this special meeting for us.
Great.
Thank you very much.
And, it's really great that this will be available for anyone who unfortunately missed tonight's evening. So I thank you all for coming. I'll take one more motion if anyone would like to make
I'll
a
move
motion.
to adjourn.
Great. All select board members in favor of adjournment, please raise your hand.
Aye.
And that's 3-0. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.